Buenas noches. Welcome to San Miguel de Allende. This is where I currently live, and this is also where I am doing my preparations to hike the Appalachian Trail. There's a lot of planning that goes in to getting ready to hike the Appalachian Trail, and I'm going to go over that in this video here. But in the meantime, I'm in the Jardín Allende, and this is a special night here in San Miguel de Allende and around the world. This is Christmas Eve, and we're getting ready for the Christmas Eve festivities down here in the Jardín Allende. And I'm going to be taking in those festivities, and then we're going to go over my strategies for my planning and organizing and preparations to hike the Appalachian Trail. So here I am planning to hike the Appalachian Trail. Maybe you're planning a hike coming up as well. I don't know if it'll be in 2024 like me. Maybe you're thinking ahead to 2025. But planning to hike the Appalachian Trail is not, like planning a vacation to like Disney World or something like that, or it's not even like planning a trip to Europe or some other place around the world. If you're thinking about hiking the Appalachian Trail, that's a big deal, and there's a lot of planning that you should be doing. I'm going to be talking today about the preparations and planning and stuff that I'm doing relative to the time and money. So let's talk about time first. I think it's different for everyone when they first start thinking about hiking the Appalachian Trail. I've heard some stories from people who maybe as a young child, their family took a little vacation to the Smoky Mountains or went out camping or something, or they went to a little day hike on the trail and ran into some through hikers and thought that was interesting. And but anyway, at some point, just the imagining the possibility of hiking the Appalachian Trail comes to mind, and I guess that's when the clock first starts ticking in terms of how time impacts your planning and preparations. And for me, it was over 20 years ago, actually. I shared this in a previous video, but I was executive director at an art center, and I had an artist residency program, and it was toward the end of the summer, and one of my artists was leaving, and I was doing an exit interview with her, and just happened to ask her, what are your future plans? And she said she was planning on hiking the Appalachian Trail. And I think that was the first time I ever heard anybody talk about the Appalachian Trail, and it sparked my curiosity. So I think as far as me personally, that's when the clock first started ticking in terms of me planning my hike of the Appalachian Trail time. But it wasn't until, oh my gosh, maybe another 15 years later that I started traveling, and I ultimately ended up going to Peru. And while I was in Peru, I took that opportunity to hike the Inca Trail, and that was a short hike, just 4 days. Do some ascents. I think the highest point was over 14,000 feet. It's called Dead Woman's Pass, and that's a lot higher than I will be seeing on the Appalachian Trail for sure. But doing those extended miles, a lot more mileage than I'd ever done before, and for one day after another, not very long, just 4 days, sort of got me interested. And I'm thinking, and ultimately I ended up hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, and I went to Patagonia and hiked the W Trek there. And all of those, here again, were relatively short hikes in terms of, around a week or so. But that's when I thought to myself that, this Appalachian Trail thing is going to happen. So the timing, in my case, really has taken many years. But that was when I decided, yes, I'm going to do it. And that's when I started thinking about getting ready. And so the next thing in terms of time is, when are you going to do it? And here again, timing the timing element of the planning is different for everyone. I at that time knew I was pretty close to my being able to retire comfortably, and so it wasn't as big an issue for me. But for me, it was just deciding, okay, once I retire, the first year after I retire, that's when I'm going to do it, and that's the way it is. Last year at this time, I was teaching, but some people, for them, it's they're just beginning. They're young people, and maybe they've just graduated from college. In some cases, just graduated from high school, and they want to take a year off to sort of do something spectacular before they go on with their careers or further their education. And so that's a big deal. And if you don't fall into one of those two categories, then timing becomes a very big issue, because you're going to have to take some time off of work. So in most cases, if you're not in between, just beginning or ending your studies, or you're at the just starting your retirement, it takes a lot of planning, and you're probably going to have to plan for, if not quitting your job entirely, then at least arranging for an extended leave of absence. So this is a big aspect in terms of timing for your Appalachian Trail. Now, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about managing your money. And here again, that can be very different from one hiker to another. Somebody who maybe has just out of high school, or maybe just finished their college and haven't started their career yet, they may not have a lot of savings and a lot of money to work with. So it's even more important for them to know how to manage their money. It's different for everyone. And, and this is one place where, the term hiking your own hike comes into play. In a lot of cases, your budget and the money that you're dealing with is what's going to make it right for you and your ability to hike your own hike. So you don't have to go out and spend $600, $700, $800 on an ultralight tent, and you don't have to get the top-notch sleeping bag or quilt. There are people that essentially go to Walmart and get just about everything they need from Walmart, and in terms of their gear, can do it very inexpensively. Usually, for me, it's been since I first decided that yes, I'm definitely going to hike the Appalachian Trail. I'd say that it's been at least 5 years, and I've been doing other little hiking trips and things like that. So I've accumulated gear over time, and a lot of that stuff I'm still using. In fact, I mentioned my sleeping bag that I used. Actually, that's more than 5 years ago, because I took that on the Inca Trail. And I think, what year was that? I think that was like 2014, I think. So that was 9 years ago. So my sleeping bag that I currently have is at least 9 years old. But I've been doing other little hikes, and I've accumulated gear over time. And, over this time, I've even upgraded a few things. But it's stuff that I've done over time. So, and that's probably the best way to do it. But if you've maybe you're someone who has just now, or just within the last few months, decided that I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail in 2024. Okay, so you'll be joining me, and you may not have a whole lot of stuff. So you've got to make some decisions on exactly how you're going to accumulate your gear. REI, of course, is probably the most popular, but especially if you're wanting to try the ultralight route, you're probably going to go to some alternative sources. But if you're not concerned about doing ultralight hiking, then REI is probably a good place. But as I said, if you're on a really tight budget, Walmart might be the place you want to do. But if you can, and you've got time to accumulate this stuff over a longer period, that's the best way to do it, so that you can try it out. So here's where time and money are both in play. If also, by accumulating pieces over a longer period of time, it allows you to try them out in some shakedown hikes and things like that. And I've done a video about one of my shakedown hikes in Eagle Rock Loop, where I was, seeing how my backpack was going to be working. I was using some new trail shoes at that time and trying those out. Here again, timing, giving yourself time to do these shakedown hikes. And in some cases, do a little shakedown in your backyard if you've got a backyard, just like the video I did where I was showing my tent a couple weeks ago. Practice setting up your tent. If you've just got a new tent and you don't want to hit the trail with a new tent that you've never set up before, that could be a problem, especially if you're in tough weather conditions and you're trying to set up a tent you're not familiar with, and that can be a problem. But the money that you spend on your gear, here again, that can vary greatly. For me, I would say my basic gears. I think I could say that I've kept it most of the basic stuff, my big three and a few other items. I've kept it pretty much under $1,000, and you can do it for a lot less than that, and you can do it for more than that. So, but you need to figure out what's right for you. Now, in terms of time and money, that goes into how you're going to actually be hiking your hike. How are you going to get there? I've already purchased my plane tickets. I'm from San Miguel de Allende here. I'm actually flying to, mine's a little complicated. I've also had a trip to Australia and New Zealand planned for a long time. I'm actually in just a few weeks, in about 4 weeks, I'm going to be leaving for Australia and spending about 3 weeks in Australia and then another 3 weeks in New Zealand. And then I'm flying back to, not to here in San Miguel de Allende, but I'm flying back to Dallas. And then from Dallas, I've already purchased my plane tickets to Atlanta. And in fact, I've already booked a night in the lodge there. So I'm going to hike that first day on March 12th. I'm just hiking up partially up the approach trail to the lodge, and I'm going to spend the night in the lodge. And here again, that's something that, my budget will allow that. And it's such an iconic thing that I've seen so much in other movies and videos and things like that. I thought it was just something that I wanted to experience, but you definitely don't have to do that. And then in terms of managing your money on the trail, you've got all these choices between, you can, spend most of your nights in your tent or in a shelter, which is not going to cost you anything. But from time to time, you're going to have the opportunities to stay in hostels or possibly even a hotel. And then, you're going to be having to spend some money on that. So you have to account for that. And then your meals, where's that going to come from? Some people, are going to ship, especially if you are on a special diet, you're going to ship boxes. And if this is the case, you probably have a support person back home that from periodically will ship these boxes, resupply boxes, and you can pick them up at various places, hostels and post offices along the way. And you can have a lot of meals sent to you that way. And that can save you a little bit of money, but that can also be kind of expensive too once you figure in the cost of shipping and all of that. So the type of eating that you do, and for me, I'm a lot more conscious about eating healthy these days, especially once you're my age. Eating a lot of junk food and highly processed food, it has an impact on me a lot more than it did when I was younger. So if you're concerned about your diet, well, that's probably going to affect your budget somewhat too. In my case, I'm planning on just going into town, every 4 or 5 days and resupplying, and I'm gonna whatever's available there. And if it's possible for me to, to get a little bit healthier stuff that, can last a few days on the trail, that's probably going to be a little more expensive. But I'm prepared to do that. But you can go out there. There have been people that, have gone out and probably your food is one of your biggest expenses, when you're out there. And there have been people that have hiked it for, a lot less money than what I will probably be spending, but also people that have probably spent a lot more. I'm not planning on spending a lot of time in hostels and hotels. So, There are people that will be spending a lot more money doing that than I will. But just as an example of, they say around $1,000 a month is what you can expect in terms of your spending on the Appalachian Trail. So if you're a faster hiker and you're only going to take 3 months, that's a pretty fast hike. Then obviously that cost will be a lot lower. But if you're a slower hiker and maybe you're going to take 6 or 7 months, then you're going to be buying 6 or 7 months worth of food and hotels and all that stuff that might apply to you. So it'll be a lot more expensive. But here again, that's just sort of an average. And I've heard people say that they've done it for just a few $100s, their entire expenses. And then people that, say that they've spent a whole lot more also on the trail. So I suspect that I'm going to be probably pretty close to that average amount. So probably a little less money. I don't imagine myself staying in a lot of hotels or something unless I just have an injury and need a break or something, or get pick up the norovirus or something like that, and I need to take a couple days off. Unless that happens, I don't see myself staying in a hotel a lot. Maybe an occasional hostel from time to time, especially some of the iconic ones that people talk about. But for the most part, I see myself, making a home in my tent most of the time. Okay, now let's go back to the gear issue and the and how time and money relates to some of the gear. Some of the stuff will just wear out over time. And the longer you hike on the trail, you might, depending upon the quality of your backpack or things like that, you might find that you might need to replace a backpack, possibly even a tent if it gets gets damaged. A lot of times you can do repairs to those sorts of things. And what a lot of people do is they'll bring some duct tape, wrap it around one of their hiking poles or something. And then if they need to do a little repair on their backpack or tent or something, that a lot of times can take care of that. But something that as far as what gear that I'm going to have to be replacing on the trail that I know for sure I'm probably going to have to do, at least a couple times, if not more, is replacing my trail shoes. I've got a pair of Topos that I've just the only time I've worn them is on the Eagle Rock Loop, so they've got less than 50 miles on them, so they're good for a few more miles. Running shoes in general, I know more about running shoes because I've been a runner for many years, and it varies for everybody. It's a little bit different in terms of the type of mileage that you can get out of a pair of shoes. But for my running shoes, it's not hard for me to get at least 400 miles, if not more, out of a pair of running shoes because for some reason or other I don't wear them down as fast as some other people. And I'm a smaller person and lighter, so the cushioning, stays better. And I'm the kind of person that I don't like a lot of cushioning in my shoe anyway, so I can get more miles out of a running shoe. And trail shoes, the trail shoes, I actually wore a pair of Carhus when I hiked the Camino de Santiago, and I put over 600 miles on those things, and they actually feel pretty good, and I still wear them around here and there, but they've got enough mileage on them that I'm not going to start the Appalachian Trail with them. But those Topos that just have like 50 miles on them, I'm definitely going to be starting the trail with those because they're great shoes. But I definitely don't expect them to last the whole time. And I don't know how many miles I'm going to get out on the trail, but I suspect that I'm going to be getting at least 500 miles in my pair of trail shoes. So that says that I'll probably go through about 4 pair on the trail. So I'll need to be replacing those. And if you get a good quality trail shoe, that's probably going to be about $150 for the shoe. Now, if you go and you can find, maybe last year's model, you might be able to maybe get a pair of them for under $100. But for me, in terms of my planning of my expenses that's going to occur at different phases of the trail. I'm planning at about a quarter of the way in, maybe replacing my shoes, and then again at about halfway, and then maybe again with about a quarter due. So I'm planning my time. How many weeks until I'm a quarter of the way through the trail, then I'll need to be spending more money on that as well. Yeah, and there's other gear issues you'll need to if you're carrying a stove with you and you've got the little gas tanks. Those will only last for so long, and you'll need to replace those. So you need to be accounting for that type of gear replacement throughout your hike as well. And you might even, I'm going to be using the soy squeeze filter, and, along the way, depending upon, how good of a job I do, cleaning it out from time to time, I may decide to replace that at various points along the trail as well. So that's kind of a minor expense that I will be incurring along the trail. So all of those things you need to keep in mind as well. Okay, so it's a good idea to be doing some contingency planning as well. Things don't always go as planned, and you need to be thinking about, what happens if you need to take some time off the trail. Maybe you have an emergency at home and you have to get off trail and maybe fly home to take care of some personal business and fly back. That's obviously going to affect your timing. So if something like that happens, then you're not going to be finishing the trail when you thought you would in terms of timing. And that's also going to be a considerable expense as well if you have to buy a plane ticket or a bus ticket or whatever it is. If you live on the West Coast, that can be quite a bit. And here I am in Mexico. So if I, for whatever reason, had to fly back to San Miguel de Allende, that would be a pretty significant expense too. So I need to keep that in mind if something like that should happen as well. And while we're talking about transportation, I think maybe earlier I neglected to, in terms of money, talk about, setting aside, depending upon where you live. Here again, if you're on the West Coast or someplace like me, the cost of getting to, if you're assuming you're doing a NOBO hike, getting into Atlanta to start your hike, if you're buying airfare or bus fare, something like that, you need to get all of that planned out. And then once if you're one of the 25% that actually make it to Mount Katahdin, you got to be thinking about, how are you going to get home? And I think my recommendation, what I'm going to do, I think some people actually calculate when they think they're going to summit Mount Katahdin and have the date down and possibly buy plane tickets in advance. I definitely don't recommend that, but I've heard of some people that have done that, and they've said, well, no, I got to keep hiking. I got to get so many miles in a day because I have to reach Mount Katahdin by this date because I've got a plane ticket home. So that's not the way I would recommend that you do your planning. So, but you need to set aside those funds to make sure you can get home and buy that plane ticket when it's time. Now, if you buying last minute plane tickets sometimes can be expensive. So, if you're getting to the 100-mile wilderness and you're just a few days away from summiting Mount Katahdin and you want to, and there's a deal that pops up on kayak.com or something like that, or Expedia, you might want to do it then. But you need to definitely plan for how you're going to get home in terms of your money. But I wouldn't get too specific as far as the timing for that. Okay, so on that subject of contingency planning, sometimes unexpected things happen even before you leave for the trail. And that's what has happened to me. And in fact, in my previous videos, when I was talking about fears and concerns about the trail, and I said my biggest concern really was what is happening elsewhere, that not on the trail, that I might at some point on the trail feel like I'm missing out on something, and feel like, you know what, I really don't want to be on the trail anymore. I want to be, back home taking care of business at home. And that actually has already happened to me. There's something that I think is going to, increase the likelihood that I'm going to feel like I need to get home. And that's something right over here. Let's take a look at these guys right here. This is my new little friend Digger. And right here, this is Smoozer. And I've just adopted them. They popped up on a Facebook group that I was following, and they were found. Their mother was astray, and they were found on a cold, rainy night here in San Miguel de Allende, and someone brought them in and was looking for homes. And because I know that I've got a big year coming up, I contacted the person and I said, I can't take them because I'm going to be out of the country for, many months, and I can't do it, but I'm happy to take care of them for a while. If you wanted to drop them, if you need some time off, and I could just sort of foster them, watch them for a few days. And by the time the woman who had rescued them took me up on that offer, these were the only two that were left. And so I started fostering them and got attached. And I really felt like I definitely wanted to see them stay together because they've become so close to each other, and it would be a shame for them to be taken apart from one another. And the original woman who rescued them agreed that she would go ahead and take them for the first month after I leave. And then I've got another friend who's going to come and stay in my home. And she's amazingly has agreed that her name is Tracy, and she's going to live here while I'm gone and be taking care of these little girls right here. So, unexpected things happen. And I've had to do some quick makeshift planning for that. And I'm definitely going to be thinking about those my two little pups while I'm gone, and it's really going to be frustrating because I know that they're going to be growing a lot. While I'm gone, they're going to be completely different dogs once I get home, and that's probably going to be the toughest thing for me to deal with when I'm out on the trail, knowing that my new family is here growing up without me. So on that note, let me end with a quick public service announcement. There's lots of stray dogs out there in shelters and wandering the streets that definitely could use your help. So, and if you're a dog person and you're inclined to have a dog of your own, then my advice is to adopt. Don't shop, adopt. Happy trails.